Tonight's kit build is assisted by Giver Black, friggin' dark lager from Devil May Care Brewing in Winnipeg. There's plenty of notes on the can, but not many tasting notes. They just talk about a bit of a roasted kick and all kinds of other fun stuff. So as I mentioned, I am going to do a kit build today. My kit box has been piling up and I just felt like chilling out and doing a kit. And the one I have pulled randomly from the box is a 4-dimensional space supercube. Because that sounds like fun, doesn't it? So in the package, we have some rubber bands, some filament LEDs, some surface mount components. We have a bunch of circuit boards of various different shapes, all oddly cut out like that. We have a tube of B7000 glue, not to be confused with any other type of glue. We have a little switch and a power plug. There is a power cord. And we have these little acrylic pieces, which are semi-mirrored acrylic. Semi-mirrored meaning that they are reflective, but not 100%, and they are a little bit transparent. And it actually comes with a set of instructions, so that should make this quite... Oh wow, I had forgotten that from the mailbag opening. It is a lengthy set of instructions, although it appears to be in a few different languages, so it's probably not nearly as long as it appears. So as we can see, the electronics on this are not all that difficult. We just have 10 LEDs by the looks of it, and 10 resistors, 91 ohm resistors, which I'm assuming those 91 ohm resistors are probably these surface mount ones in here. And then we have a switch and the power input. The biggest job of this thing is going to be mechanical, attaching everything together. So let's get started. All rubber bands can be used to assist in building the framework, which is what all these weird shaped PCBs are about. The resistor pads, ceramic lamp pads, aka LED filaments, and PCB board connections should all face inside. After the framework is built, adjust the gaps to be as small as possible. That's all there is in the first steps. So there's 4 of this type of PCB, which makes up the sides. And let's see, now there are the solder pads that they say need to be on the inside. So this is, I assume, going to be the hardest part of the whole thing, is getting all of these guys aligned and attached to each other. I wonder if maybe I start with that. I'm not sure. It doesn't really give many hints to how to do this. So I'm just going to have to wing this a little bit. I'm sure there's somebody probably down in the comments already screaming that there are about 10 better ways to do this. I don't know if this is the right way to do it or not, but we'll start trying it like this and see what happens. Okay, so there I've got 2 sides on. This could easily be a multi-person job, getting this all set up. But let's see. Okay, there is 3 in. The pads to the inside, like it said. That goes like that. Get that up over there. Pads on the inside, pads on the inside, pads on the inside. I think that's right. Okay, let's return to the manual a little bit. You may hear in the background that the air conditioner is kicked in. We'll just have to deal with that sound. After confirming the assembly is correct, apply glue. Use scissors to cut off the rubber bands if you can't remove them. Then solder to connect the 24 pads, 12 on the top, 12 on the bottom, making the frame more robust. Then solder the LEDs in. You know what I don't see? Anything about where to solder the resistors in. So looking closer at the board, it doesn't actually match the schematic perfectly. That negative there is the negative coming in from the power, but that negative also goes to one side of these resistor pads here. There, and there. So we have negative going to a resistor, and then the other side of the resistor pad goes to the negative side of where the LED connects, and the positive side of the LEDs goes back to the positive of the switch. So I guess it's close enough to write and just put the resistor and the LED in the opposite position there. But that means we need to get these surface mount resistors on here, and I think I want to do those before I go through this mechanical assembly, because I think trying to solder surface mount components inside of there is going to be a real pain in the butt. But also, there is 3 resistors on each of those, and there's 4 of those, so that would mean 12 resistors. According to the parts list, we've got 14 of them, but according to the schematic, we've got 10. What started off as a fun kit is turning into a very confusing one. There's actually 15 LEDs and 14 resistors. I don't know what to believe anymore. But I am increasingly confident that I should solder those resistors on first. And since I'm soldering surface mount, I'm going to put the finest pointed tip that I have onto my iron, just to give me the best chances of success. I'm going to just tack solder onto one pad at a time, get a little bit of solder on there, and then tweezer mode engage. Yep, that worked. Okay. Now just to repeat that 4 or 3 more times around the thing. And I think I will just snap each board back into place as I go, and yeah, carry on like that. I think that is the best way to go about it. I don't know. I've never done this kind of a crazy kit before. Okay, I think that is all the resistors soldered on there. And the last ones are slightly less ugly than the first ones, which is cool. Also, it's good that they gave me a couple of extras, because one of them's on the floor and I've still got one spare over there. So that's above average for my surface mount soldering. Let's just mechanically reattach this. Eesh, come on, you. This is the hardest part. Well, no. This is a deceptively simple kit, but the fiddly mechanical stuff, and yeah, I consider soldering surface mount to be fiddly mechanical stuff, that is the challenge of this kit. Plus, of course, it's not completely accurate in the instructions, so that's another interesting challenge. So now that that's all assembled, the instructions want me to confirm that it's all assembled correctly, apply glue to the 8 corners on the inside, and then wait for the glue to harden, which take 3 or 4 hours. I don't think I want to wait 3 or 4 hours to do this project. I want to get busy on it. So let's see if this old tube of super glue is still liquidish. And I'll just put a little dab on each corner, because there are solder pads on the inside that we can solder up to make it more solid eventually. But this should do the job to keep the video going along here. So it didn't mention anything about soldering these pads on the inside here, but these ones down at the bottom are what conducts power from the power board up to the upper levels. And also, they will really do a good job of reinforcing the mechanics of the whole thing. So I think I will take this opportunity to reach in there and solder them all up now. I'll do maybe 1 or 2 on each side, and that should firm it up enough that I'll be able to take the rubber bands off and then get at the rest of them more comfortably. At least that's a plan anyway. I don't know if it's the right plan, but kind of winging it here, you know. And now, with a bit of crazy glue and a handful of solder blobs, I should be able to take that off. And yeah, that's nice and solid. So, I'll just finish soldering all the rest of these pads that are doing the mechanical stuff around the bottom. And then I think we can continue on with the LEDs. This is actually nice and solid now that I've got all these soldered in. Not even all of them, but it's already quite solid. So this kit hasn't redeemed itself in my eyes yet, because the manual is, like I said, fairly useless. The pictures in it are probably the most useful thing, and it's just wrong in so many ways. Regardless, we figured it out. So now that that is rock solid, and we didn't even melt through any of those elastics, let's carry on, I guess, with installing the LEDs on the inside. Welding resistance. Is that what they meant by by putting in the resistors? Really? I'm glad I did it before. Anyway, solder the ceramic LED. Pins of the ceramic LED with holes are the positive mark on the PCB silkscreen. And then put on the connector, and then put on the switch. Okay. So once again, there's the end with the hole, which should be the positive end. And that goes down in there like that. There is a positive marking on this end and a negative marking on that end. This too is going to be awkward. Kind of like that. Can I reach in there somehow and do this? Maybe that's got it. Now that end has moved, of course. I think it's on the pad enough. Come on. I think that's on the pad enough. Kind of want to check these one at a time as I go. So I'll set my power supply to 5 volts with a 15 milliamp current limit. Turn that on and touch that to the power supply pads down there, and nothing happens. Okay, since I'm current limited, I should be able to do that then. And damn, did I damage that LED, or did I put it in backwards? No. Maybe I did damage it. Let's grab another one out of the box here. End with the hole is positive, so there's negative there. Okay. Here's the one with the hole in it. That's that one over there. So let's try this again. Did they send me a box of dud LEDs? Is my testing method wrong? No, that works. Okay. So I think this might be an entire batch of dud LEDs. Yeah, they're not drawing any current over there at all. What the hell? Alright, I've gone into my collection of LEDs, and I do have some other filaments. Unfortunately, they're not the right length, so they won't work, but this is what they should look like. So, kind of stumped on this project right now. Although I do have these green ones that are the right length in my collection, so maybe let's try one of these and see what they look like. The hole is that end, so that is the negative that doesn't have the hole, and that's a positive that does have the hole. Oh, yeah, okay. Yay, parts hoard. So this is now going to have green LEDs in it, just to make this look more like space junk than it already is. And I will put those into quarantine so I don't accidentally use them. Now then, to get that one out, I guess it doesn't matter if I destroy it or not because it already doesn't work. Still, this is a bit of a pain in the butt to reach in there and get at it. Well, not as bad as I would think. Okay, so put that with the other ones in timeout and carry on here. Where is my positive hole? It's on this end. Now then, back to the awkwardness of trying to get these things to sit in here nicely. And before we go any further, does it light up? Yes, it does. Cool. Now I have more confidence. So, we have that one across the top on all four sides. We have one across the bottom on all four sides. And we have just one on one side. And that is this side here that has the two resistors on it. That resistor is for the top one, that resistor is for the side one, and that resistor is for the bottom one. There are pads on this side here, but they aren't connected to anything. So I just have to put 3 in, but that's okay because this one here shines through that corner slot and takes the place. So I don't need to do 4 of them. But I think I will do the tops and bottoms first, just because. And with each one, I'll test it as I go to make sure that I've soldered it in correctly, because these are just too much of a problem child to troubleshoot. Okay, there is the 8 on the top and bottom, and they all light up. So now, just to work in those corners there. There's going to be this has all been a bit trick. I'm not really saying anything new, but the negative goes at the top there, so that's that direction. Kind of settles into there. Oh, that might even be easier because it's sort of being held, cradled in the corner, I think. Way too big a blob of solder, but I think we'll just live with it. And now, does that work? Yes, it does. Right. Continue on. We're getting there. Do they all light up? I wonder. Cross my fingers, cross your eyes. Yes, they all light up. Excellent. Now the easy part, putting the switch and the 5-volt jack on. And they could go on any side. They could go on opposite sides. I'm going to put them on exactly the same side here just because, and I think I'll start with the switch just because it's a lower profile. I think it will be easier to get at. Well, compared to everything else in this kit, the switch and the power connector are going to be super easy. There's the switch and now the power connector right beside it. And I may have to adjust this thing a little bit, so I'm just going to solder down one connection first and then hold it with my finger, reheat it, and let it snap into place like that. Oh, it's still moving around. Okay, fine. So now I'll do the positive connection over here. And that one I do have to remelt it and snap it back into place. Now then. Yeah, there we go. And then the other negative connection, I'm not sure which negative connection is the important one, so I'll just do both of them. One of them may be mechanical or they may both be electrical. I'm not sure. That looks like it flowed, but I think I want to throw a little bit more solder onto it just for good measure. There. So that should be everything. So now we'll take the included power cable, plug that in there, plug that, there we go, and plug this to an offstage USB connection. Yahoo! Okay, we have all the lights lit. So now then, one final thing to do, and that's deal with these acrylic mirrors. Don't know whether we can trust it or not, but in here it says the bottom acrylic lens measures that, the top one is that, and the front and back are that, and the left and right are that. So make sure that you have them in the right positions. So there's the three different sizes sorted. Those two are different. Okay. So that's the smallest one, so I'm going to guess that that is the bottom one. Yeah. And it talks about there being protective film on them. We know that there is on this side because it's blue. And yeah, that comes off. And there is also some film on this side. Oh, that's much shinier. All right. So I think I'm going to do the bottom one first, just because it is obviously the only one of that size. And again, it wants us to use the rubber bands to secure these things in place temporarily. So we'll do that. This obviously is the top one because it's another square one. I'll just take one of those protective films off, tuck it under there. And it wants us to glue these in place. I don't know if I want to use their glue. Well, I probably should, just because they've gone to the effort of including it. So I'll squeeze some of that out onto this plastic here. They didn't give us very much. So it doesn't really say how to attach these. So I'm just going to put itty bitty, oof. That is horribly stringy glue. But that's what they gave us, so I guess that's what we'll use. But again, it takes hours and hours to cure according to the instructions, so maybe we'll just humor them on the top and bottom ones and then use something else on the side glasses. I'm not sure. Anyway, that's on there. We'll line that nice and square. And I've already got squeeze out of my fingers. Great. I'll put that up like that, just to hold it, I guess, for now. And get back to the bottom one. I don't want to be too whiny, but I suspect that ship has already sailed on this kit. I am less impressed with this kit than many of the other cheap junk kits that I get. But I guess it does the job. It's just mechanically really, really unfulfilling. I'm going to guess the two wide sides go opposite each other and the two narrow sides go opposite each other. And I think I will just tuck them in here under the rubber bands for now, just to center them up. Probably put another rubber band over this way. I'll just get everything roughed in and then leave that rubber band on there, another one on there, and that's holding the two longer ones on, which means I can glue in the two narrower ones, I think. Might as well squeeze out the rest of the tube here. It's already hardening up on my little blob of plastic. Not thrilled about that, but then again, yeah, it's off-brand glue, so what do you expect? Just a little dab will do you in each corner. Probably way too much. Again, I'll peel the harder one to see off, the more transparent one, so that the blue one is easier to spot when I'm peeling them off later. So that should go in there, just held by the other ones. Yep. Do the same on this side. This glue being tacky like it is, probably hold a little bit without the elastics, at least long enough to assemble the next face. Maybe. Okay, I think that is all stuck. I'm just going to clean up here, let that sit for a little while, enjoy my drink, and I will come back in probably less time than they want for that glue to dry, but for you it doesn't matter because it's just going to be however long it takes for this quick fancy little edit that I do here. Okay, that's enough waiting. It's probably not been long enough for that glue, but I'm impatient and I want to see what this looks like. So let's start getting these rubber bands off here, peeling the protective film off the mirrors. We'll plug that in. I've already got fingerprints all over the mirrors, darn it. Get zoomed in and ooh, trippy, even with all the lights on in here. And actually, let me do something about that. There, that's better. Now you can get the full effect. Wow. That is actually cooler than I expected it to be. Was it worth all the annoyance of the mechanical difficulties putting it together and the crap manual and the entire package of faulty LEDs? Well, I don't know the answer to that question, but the end result is pretty cool, so I will give it that. I don't know, have you ever done this kind of a kit before? Did you find it any easier or harder than I did? Well, let me know down in the comments. Anyway, thanks for watching. I do appreciate that. I will talk to you later.